What's it like the first week or two when you get out? What's that first week or two like?
It just ended with the woman at whatever the office is in the Army that we go to that just shook my hand and said thank you. And I walked out the door and walked to my car. And
That was
like,
it.
I almost felt kind of lost. When you're first out, it's kind of like you're in the bed with no blanket.
It was almost like I kept thinking I was going back. I was just on leave and I was gonna end up going back.
I wanted adrenaline and I kept doing things. And eventually it caught up to me with, accidents and stuff.
it was almost like a culture shock.
Yeah.
And I was surprised actually how much I missed it. Because when I was getting out, I was looking forward to getting out a great deal. And then afterwards I was like, wow, I missed it.
What did you miss?
For me, personally, I felt a great deal of pride wearing the uniform. And that for me was really great. It felt like I was a part of something that was extremely important. And it was almost like a sense of purpose.
Like the work ethic has a big thing too here. Like when I got home and I was working, instantly I was only home for like, I don't know, 36 hours or something before I started working. And I'm used to, 10 minutes prior, standing tall, formation, 0630, dark 30, and like people are showing up late, like going on smoke breaks whenever they want, doing whatever they want, just being like slackers. And I'm like, I can do this now? Like, I was like, okay.
It's not necessarily a good thing, though.
No. But it was just like, that was a shock too, because they didn't really have any, just completely different mentality.
How do you go about rebuilding or putting together a support system?
I had to turn internally to myself and my family and just kind of say, okay, you have to prioritize your feelings, I guess,
Right. Brock, what about your circumstance? What did you find that was helpful in getting that support system put together?
Well, it definitely wasn't my family because, my parents and brothers and immediate family members, they still, to this day, they think that I'm like the same person that I was before I, went to Afghanistan and Iraq, and they don't know about anything that I've experienced, so they still think that I'm like that little 17-year-old kid that I couldn't really rely on them for support. So,
Are there other things that you would say to family members or loved ones that would help you in the transition?
Don't assume. They were finding out that soldiers who had not been exposed to combat situations were suffering the same signs and symptoms of soldiers who had been,
Right.
and not displaying any kind of signs. So when they came back home, the family just assumed that everything was okay. So the advice that you could give is that they could possibly get some education on PTSD, and what are the signs and symptoms that they could possibly observe, so that they could just be aware of it and not jump in their face and say, are you suffering from this? Are you suffering from that? Be in the know and know what to look for. And so if something is happening, then they can reach out to the person.
most definitely take an active role.
Yeah.
Don't make assumptions.
Just if you're a spouse and your husband or your wife is coming home from the war, take an active role and take it one day at a time. Take it slow. Because it's a slow process.
I think it's important that family members realize, and friends realize, that what we come out of, whether we've been exposed to combat, whether we have not been exposed to combat, is when you go into the military, it is a complete and total lifestyle change. It's not just a job, it's not just a career, it is all-encompassing. And like Rich said earlier, you live, eat, sleep, and breathe the military and the people that you're surrounded by.
Right.
That's why the ties are so strong to each other. But when we get out, our lifestyle as a whole, everything that we do on a day-to-day basis, our routines completely change and have to be geared towards something totally different. So when you have family members that are not very understanding and are just riding you about getting a job or doing this or doing that, it makes it even harder to get through that transition, because you're trying to just find your way and put your feelers out there. You're just trying to stabilize yourself.